Hi folks, a quick note up top about this story. Our audience now spans the globe, and this one is especially for our listeners in the Caribbean. This week's author, narrator, and host are all from the region, and the story is an authentic one. If you have any trouble with the dialect, we suggest that you read the story first or read along with the narration. You can find the full text on our website at escapepod.org, and we promise you don't want to miss this one.
Escape Pod, Episode 829, Wild Meat, by Shari Paul.
Hello, and welcome to Escape Pod, your weekly science fiction podcast. I'm Premi Mohammed, your host for this episode. I'm the author of the Beneath the Rising series of novels, author of a lot of short fiction, an assistant editor here at Escape Pod, as well as, fairly often, the voice of the pod itself on Twitter, and I am delighted to host this wonderful story. Our story this week is Wild Meat by Shari Paul. This is an Escape Pod original. Author Shari Paul is a speculative fiction writer from Trinidad and Tobago. A clerk by day, Shari writes adventures in strange new worlds by night. Shari is published at Faya, The Dark, and Clarkesworld, with reprints at Podcastle and Italian translation at Il Guio. Shari has a degree in literatures and English from the University of the West Indies and is currently under examination for a Master in Creative Writing. Our narrator is Mercedes Modeste, whose bio goes, "Nope, not the Benz, but still driven by many goals and dreams. I am Mercedes Modeste. I reside where you vacation, in the beautiful Caribbean. Besides narrating, I am also a poet, artist, singer, and dancer at heart. Otherwise, I am currently pursuing business studies. Beyond my thoughts that Starbucks Frappuccinos and good conversations can heal any bad day, I also believe that stories and art can take you on some of the best trips without leaving. Now, get ready to fire up the grill, because it's story time."
Wild Meat by Shari Paul. Read by Mercedes Modeste. Q, I have a story to tell you. Remember the wild meat competition I did tell you about? The one they was planning to have on the holiday weekend? Well, talk about bacchanal, because Narish and them decided they wanted to cook dinosaur meat. Yes, dinosaur from the reserve. These people, like they was trying to get me through in jail. So, you know my husband Narish and his friend and them does like to cook. Since they small, they go in with their father and them by the river and the beach with the old iron pot and me can cook. It have a thing they cook either. Is roast manikou, is stew agouti, is caiman where they curry the egg and all, is conch they pick up in the drain, is stuffed cascadoo with all the bone and dumplings, is pilau with lap, is fried snake and wedges with dipping sauce. Narish go in secondary school. He start to hang out with them boy and them on the own. Breaking Beach in Form 4 to go by the river in Valencia and in Cora and quite a hell down Maracas for real bacon shop. Now you know I'm not really into the line. It's only because I went with my brother to catch crab in the lagoon that I even meet Narish. But he does go by the river with the boys to cool off on the weekends, and as long as he don't come back smelling stinker, me again. I tell him already, I don't want no drunk man. And he say that he don't really drink, but he will have a beer with them so they don't watch him funny. It's I did buy him the freezer so he could keep the meat in the garage. And the way them just do it, that freezer always full. I tell you about the Christmas they had a whole day in the freezer. And Narish actually going in my kitchen and take out meat from the fridge to pack his. Well, you know, I tell him about that. Your friend and them just bring all the meat here for you, but I sure them have freezer too. That not staying in my fridge, mister. The next day, it was gone. But I going off on a tangent. I don't really mix up with them and they cook, but I was the one who tell them about the wild meat competition. How it happened was, before the holiday, the councillor for the area, Mr. Dillon, was there for the cricket match down by the savannah, and them boy and them was cooking. They didn't make one set of food, but everybody was running down the horse meat barbecue. Mr. Dillon eat 3 bucks. After that, when he come in the office, all he could talk about was how good the food was, but how he and his people could do better. So, Rishi tell him, now we have to try your hand. Name the date and we go have a cookout. Mr. Dillon liked them challenge thing. You would think a man like him would just be in the office all day, not talking to we plebs. But every once in a while, you go find him with the men and them playing all fours. And he could play real good, because them men does be balling that it good they not playing for money. So, when Rishi suggests the cookout, he say, yeah, we should have a wild meat competition on the holiday. I don't think any of we did take him seriously with that. We were just talking in the office. You could imagine my shock when he showed up the next day and asked me to make some flyers. Oh, how it would be a nice community event for the long weekend, and he done scoop out location and think the savannah is the best place because we could have some games going and even our all-fours tent. I make the flyers on them, and I take one home and put it on the fridge for Narish. You should have seen how excited that man gets. Come in the bathroom when I beat him to ask me if it was serious thing. And then the next thing I know, by the time I come out the bathroom, he was on the phone with the rest of them discussing what they was going to make and who was going to bring what and even what they was going and where. I don't know who come up with the idea to use dinosaur meat. I feel it sooner. That boy stupid bad, so he does always have some foolish idea. The problem is, the rest of them just as stupid. So, they just go along with it. Soon I'll have a friend working in the Aripo Savannah's dinosaur resort. His father used to work there too, but Sunil was too dense and frightened to get in. I don't know how he managed to still be hanging around, and that they does let him. Sunil friend working with the Americans and them studying all the dinosaurs that show up since the Aripo event. With the tall walls they put up around the place, and the dome they add afterwards, the animal and them can't fly out, so they just have to live in there with them. And you know, the reserve is not that big, about 4,000 acres or so. But the animals on them, huge. That is why they had to send some of them to Tobago and take the rest in the other islands and South America. But according to Sunil's friend, what they can't send somewhere else, they just have to kill. And so Sunil said that he could bring dinosaur meat. You see, me here, I don't really like to get in them boy and them business. Narish is a big man. He and Sunil is friends since secondary school, so he should have known that things was going to go wrong. You know this boy, instead of bringing meat from dinosaur, the people and them, what did this call it? Instead of bringing something they call, he bring a real live pterodactyl. No, what did this call it? A pterosaur? Your girl cannot even pronounce the name, but is one giant lizard bird them put in the backyard. Friday evening, I go home from work to see Narish's brother, Narendra. They're with the Kia van. They went with it because they needed the big flatbed. When I pull up in the yard, I did already hear this thing making a whole sort of noise. It's rattling through the place like gunshots 1 minute and squawking loud the next. I hear that and nearly jump back in the car because something had to be wrong. Then I see Narendra and he say, Keisha, how you going, girl? Don't worry about the noise. It's only for a little while. So I ask him, what making that noise? You lucky somebody I call the police. He tell me, the dinosaur. The what? I ask him, because even though they did make the decision, nobody did tell me nothing. Because, as I say, I don't get involved in their wild meat business. But instead of answering, I don't know if it was the look on my face. Narendra just stand up there grinning. So I tell him, show me it. What dinosaur you talking about? Let me see what you bring in my yard. We walk around the van to the back of the house. And when I tell you, I nearly did. When I see what they bring, is a whole living, breathing cat, quetzy something. Quotless? Yes, that's the name. But it was a small one. You know, the big ones just be about the size of a small plane. This was about as big as a car. Pretty. The pattern on the wings like the tie-dye wrap dress did us have for people to go to the beach. Even with that long beak and them crocodile teeth, when you see that thing in the light, girl, it real pretty. It's just that it's alive still. And they have it in the backyard tie up with a dog chain talking about how they will keep it until the night before they cook so the meat will be fresh. Well, you know me. It's the corporation I work in. I have to ask the relevant question. I ask, I thought you say you was getting meat. What is this? Narish start one time. Babe, they couldn't get the meat this time, but they say we could take this instead. We only have to keep it until tomorrow, and then we have to cook. It's not that I studying, I tell them. As long as these things are alive, you know it's a protected species. If they catch me with one of that, you know what that is? That's a serious shield. And you know how them Americans acting like the thing on them is theirs even though it come out in we country. They're not going to go easy on me at all. You're worrying too much, girl, Sunil say. I watch them and ask, what happened to the meat? Where the partner who gave it to you? Why he can't keep it in the backyard? No, girl, he working there. He can't have this by him. Sunil tell me. So what about you? I ask. You know, I don't have no space for this kind of thing. Narish is the one who volunteered because all your backyard big. I watch Narish and he say, babe, don't worry about it. Go inside. When it calm down, no one will even know we have anything here. And besides, they know we're preparing for the cook, so they will probably think it's a turkey. The thing sounding like gunshots. It's too early in the day for people to be hunting. What turkey you talking about? I ask him, babe, just go inside. It will calm down just now. You just come home from work and I know you're tired. Go and cool off and sit down and we go handle this. You see. I say, alright. I go on inside and take off my clothes, bathe and sit down on the couch to watch some TV for a little bit. Whole time this thing still making noise. I get up. I go to the kitchen to take out some meat to make something for them to eat with all this ruckus. It's still making noise and it never stops. It's only when it starts to get dark that I go back outside and tell them, oh, I have to do something about that thing. We can't have it making all that noise in the night. Narish agree with me and tell them, yeah, we can't keep it here. Sunil say, well, let me just kill it one time. That sounds real reasonable, but mind you, he wasn't talking about he killing it. He said that, and he wasn't even holding a cutlass, and the thing so big, and not even sure what they was planning to do. Put it in a bathtub and try to break the neck like a chicken? Well, I tell myself I didn't want to see that, so I go back inside. The news was starting as I go back to my stove, and the first thing that come up, big and bold? Juvenile pterosaur among several small animals stolen from the Aripo Savannas Dinosaur Reserve by poachers. Yes, kid. You didn't see it on the news? I forget you say you don't watch the news, but yes. His teeth them clung and them teeth the people pterosaur. I tell you, Sunil stupid bad. Bad. He tell everybody that he have a friend working in the place. Come to find out, because I had to go back one time to call them to see the report. The friend working with some poachers and was selling some of the animals for a few years now to people who like them exotic pets and who want to eat them. He started to talk fast when Naresh and them turned on him. He said his father used to be in the trade, but they did find him out, and instead of firing and locking him up, they make him retire early and didn't tell the Americans nothing. When Sunil went after looking to take up the same job, they refused to hire him because they was worried that he would pick up the same trade. Bad luck for them. Sunil and one of the people did go to school together, and he did meet up with him when he went to apply. The next time they meet in a bar near the place, two of them start climbing together, and then the friend let him on the trade. So now we all standing in the kitchen with a stolen protected species in the backyard. I know Naresh could have licked him down right there. Now plans change. They have to get rid of the pterosaur. Sunil was talking some nonsense about how nobody would know it's them, but I mean, common sense now. Isn't we as it is? Narendra says best we take it somewhere in Kamutu and let it go. That way they will think that it's just escape the poachers, and they wouldn't look in with direction to see if we have the rest. Naresh say, well, nah. The thing a little dangerous and it could start attacking people, and he don't want that on his conscience. When I tell you, I marry a good man. He does make some kind of choices sometimes, but his heart in the right place. But he can't just go back to the reserve and tell them, hey, look, we find this thing and we hear about the stolen animals, so we bring it to you. It was around this time I realized that the place get quiet. Them stand up here talking, but it have no noise coming from outside. So I go to check, and would you believe Mr. Pterosaur bust the chain and gone? I run back inside and tell them, hey, the thing get away. Narendra say, what? Girl, stop making joke. They go on outside to check anyway, but of course the only thing left was the bus chain. One time, them start to panic. Naresh go to check the cameras and say that as soon as all of them went inside after I called them, the thing put the chain in his mouth, break it, and just walk out of the backyard. Narendra and two of the others run out the door, and then one of them shouts, it's in the road! Bring the van! We have to catch this thing before it fly off! Sunil say it wouldn't fly off. The Americans just clipped the wings like parrot to stop them from trying to go through the dome. But it could still do a lot of damage on the ground, yes? I asked him. That is when we hear one of the neighbors' car alarm go off. We all run outside to see this thing pecking and glowing at the man's brand new Hilux. It did already properly dig up the side of the van, used up the tires and windows, and was pulling out a light. Naresh, we have to catch it and carry it back. I don't care if they lock me up. I'm not letting this thing run loose. You could pay for that van Jason, one of their other friends, take up the keys to go for the Kia. Next thing he bawled out, like this thing slash your tires red. Not just Narendra tires, the ones on Naresh's car and mine too. I didn't even know them thing was so smart. So now they have to try to catch this thing on foot. Jason and Naresh and this fellow, Andy, pick up some rope and extra chain in the back and the cutlass and the rake and run out in the road behind it. The others get in to run away from the car and they try to herd it like it was some kind of boat back to the house, shouting and charging it. The thing make more of that gunshot noise at them, growl and spread its wings. Watch now. When I tell you this thing was big, the body was as long as a car, but the wings spread out was twice that. Them boys and them had no choice but to back it up. But it couldn't fly away either. So Narendra and Jason make lassos and try to throw it over the thing head. Now, by this time the neighbors and them did start to come outside. I see people with their phones out, so it have no way we was getting to carry this thing back quietly. I turn around and go back in the backyard and take off the broken chain from where they had the thing tied up and throw it in the old dog kennel under the water tank. When I go back out front, you was just starting to hear the sirens in the distance. Somebody did call the police. Naresh and them still didn't catch the thing yet. Every time they tried to throw the lasso around it, it would just duck or spread the wings. When it flapped them, the breeze could almost knock you down. I was about to tell them to try something else, or at least stay further back before this thing hit them. When we hear this rumbling in the sky and this big, bright searchlight shine down from overhead. The Americans from the reserve reach with a big helicopter before the police. They put out their loudspeaker and say, "Step away from the animal. It is extremely dangerous. Step away from the animal." You didn't have to tell Naresh and them that twice. They run back to the house and the Americans lower the helicopter so close I swear they was going to touch the electricity wires and threw down a net. The net dropped right over the terrace and then they shoot it with a few tranquilizer and in a few minutes it was unconscious. When the police arrived, Naresh and them explained that they find this thing in the bush when they went looking for wild meat for the cook. They managed to catch it and bring it back here, but then it escaped. Sunil make himself scarce. Narendra make a few jokes with one of the officers and the police jump back in the jeep and gone. I don't think the Americans really believe this story, but they didn't make a scene. They just take back the animal and go. I didn't tell Naresh nothing until the rest of them gone. Then I say, the next time Sunil suggests something, tell him all you will think about it and let it go. I'm not asking you not to hang out with your partner, but understand that this clown will get you in trouble and go on about your business. Look how fast he disappeared. Naresh say nothing. Just went out to the freezer to see what they had to cook. The day of the cook come now. Naresh and them cook a keema in 3 different ways, but they only get second place. You want me to tell you why? It's because the Americans, the counselor invite from the reserve grilled burgers they make with the dinosaur meat.
And that's our story. Sherry Paul has this to say about the story. Trinbagonians have a love for eating non-traditional meats, especially around holidays, and sometimes there are competitions for the best chefs. All of it is in good fun. If I'm not mistaken, this was also featured on a few Discovery Channel shows. This tradition served as the inspiration for writing this story about dinosaurs. And I have this to say. I adored the story when it was bumped up to me and Ben. I laughed out loud the first time I read it. In particular, I love dinosaurs, of course, but also I love a good disaster story, or in this case, a cascading chain of completely avoidable disasters, which by a huge coincidence is exclusively the type of story my West Indian family tells. But I also admired the subtext to this very funny story. When we watch blockbuster dinosaur movies, do we think about the choices and everyday lives of the workers? How do they feel about having to live in close proximity to these big, dangerous, tasty animals just so they can maintain their livelihood? So, I hope readers and listeners enjoyed this story on both levels, as I did. Stay tuned for a tale of a very strange motel that shouldn't be where it is. Or maybe it shouldn't exist at all? In next week's story, Rena in the Desert by Leah Swope Mitchell. Escape Pod is a production of Escape Artists Incorporated and is brought to you with a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Don't change it, don't sell it, do go forth and share it. If you'd like to support Escape Pod, please rate or review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite app. We are 100% audience supported, and we count on your donations to keep the lights on and the servers humming. You can donate via patreon.com by searching for Escape Artists, or via PayPal through our website, escapepod.org. Patreon subscribers now have access to exclusive merchandise and can be automatically added to our Discord. Our opening and closing music is by Daikaiju at daikaiju.org. And our closing quotation this week is from MFK Fisher, who said, "I still think that one of the pleasantest of all emotions is to know that I with my brain and hands, have nourished my beloved few, that I have concocted a stew, or a story, a rarity, or a plain dish, to sustain them truly against the hungers of the world." Thanks for joining us, and remember to stay on the safe side of the fence.